So this is about what's new and important in Android. So I just want to know who here is up to date. Like, who already has Honeycomb? Yeah, quite a few of you. Yeah, who's been to another Google event this year already? Maybe Google I/O, or did any of you go to the G-Days events in Africa? Not really. Okay. Well, Richard did. He was there. So let's see. Did you watch the Google I/O videos? Cool. Yeah, I thought most of you did. Otherwise, I would have shown you some cool ones. But I love the one where they have the rocket-powered Android showing the device activations. I think that's my favorite. You all read the blog? Keep up to date with the blog? Yeah, the blog is a good place to look. Many of the things that I'm going to talk about, you can get detailed information about these in the blog. Yeah, who checked for updates just in the last hour? And who's looking for updates right now? So, as far as new and up to date, you may see some things in my talk that are very up to date. Like, so, who knows what these things are? Just a few of you. These are the Android device accessory, or the ADK Android device kit. What does ADK stand for? Accessory Development Kit, right. These are the Accessory Development Kit demos that you people here in Israel, in Tel Aviv, made for this event. And these things are on display over at the, walk out, turn right, and go to the end of the hall, and you see this big hangout area. And you can see these things on display well, not right now. If you go right now, you'll miss my talk. But right after my talk, no, wait, there's another Android talk. At lunch, no. Any time that you're not in a talk, go and look at the cool demos that we have just 2 halls over. I mean, talk about important. This stuff is made by you. So, cool stuff. What's new in Android? Another thing that's new in Android is we have a team. I mean, at this time last year, I think we had 1 full-time Android developer relations person in all of Europe and 1 partial timer. Is that right, Nick? Only one full-timer. And now we've got 4 of us based in Europe and representing Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So what do you think of that? That we've got a whole team just covering you developers and your needs and your interests. So just a quick recap to kind of set the stage. This is what we said around this time last year. Froyo was a cool new release. We were just about to release Gingerbread. We had some very good talks about user experience and design. I'm not going to linger on this too long because you've probably read this already. And then came February, and we introduced Honeycomb, the biggest new Android introduction since probably the beginning of the platform, where we took it to a whole new dimension. Now, how many of you are familiar with this screenshot? How many of you have seen this before? Okay, most of you, or at least half of you. So this set the groundwork. This set the stage for all the great new things we're going to talk about today. The thing that made this different from today is that this was just for tablets. We invented all these great new affordances for Android applications that were targeted specifically towards large screen tablet devices. And another thing we introduced, a new rendering framework. I think this is very cool because it lets you access the power of your GPU without the complexity of OpenGL. I'm not going to say a lot about this because we have a talk about high-performance graphics coming up in less than an hour. And you can learn more about this if you stay in this room and watch Richard's talk. But powerful graphics, easy programming, not a lot of overhead, works across all compatible devices. You don't have to worry about the hardware of your GPU. And we use it internally. We use it inside the Android OS, all over the place, to do fancy visual effects. Another thing we introduced, USB host mode. And these are just some of the things that we introduced over the past year, sort of leading up to where we are today. This goes back to those demos that I showed you in the other room. All of those cool, interactive, like real-world physical devices are talking to the Android controllers via this little accessory development kit. So you can see this device in action a couple of rooms over. Okay, you don't really want to hear me talk about ancient history, right? I mean, Google I/O was what, 4 months ago? Forget about it. So, let's talk about ice cream sandwich. So this is what brings together the. What? Did I go too far? Right. So, yes, all those great new powerful APIs, rich affordances, next generation technologies that we introduced for tablets now come full circle back onto the telephone. So now the Android APIs really are one set of APIs for all your devices. And to start with, users are people, developers are people. We wanted this to be a people-centric release. It's not just about the technology, it's about you. So we set out to retool the Android experience to be more beautiful. The first thing we did is, did any of you see this before? Like, did you watch the announcement video from Hong Kong? Okay, so we created a brand new font for Android that was supposed to be beautiful. And we like it so much, we typeset this presentation in Roboto. Another thing we did is we stripped away the distractions, the Chrome, all the user interface stuff, the clutter, and just got you closer to your content. The borders go away, and we just have little hints showing where things go. I'm not going to linger about this too long because we have a user experience talk as well, which Nick is going to present right after lunch. So the converged platform, all these great things that we introduced for tablets, like the Fragments loaders, better notifications, better home screen widgets, all these things now work on your phone as well as on your tablet. So you saw the system bar in the Honeycomb tablet. You saw it on a screenshot a few slides back. We've broken that into two, so now we've still got your notification bar on top, and the navigation affordances are now part of the navigation bar. So you have, in the place where your old phones might have had hard buttons, we now have these soft buttons, which are consistent, and they're always in exactly the same order, so you don't have to worry about retraining yourself every time you switch devices. So, now on your phone, you can hide those soft navigation buttons, or you can actually make them go away completely. You can go full screen all the way, and this is something you couldn't even do in Honeycomb, but because the telephone uses a much smaller screen, we really want to give you as much access to that screen as we can, so we now let you write into what used to be forbidden space in the system bar, so you can hide the navigation. The only caveat there is it's non-interactive. As soon as the user touches the screen, those navigation buttons come back again. Am I advancing? Right. The other big new UI affordance was the action bar, which we intended to replace both the options menu and that title bar from your legacy Android. Now, how many of you have been around Android since the early days, like 1.x? And what do you think of that title bar that does absolutely nothing but display the name of your application? Is that wasted space or what? So now you can put navigation up there, you can put branding up there, and you can put your menu up there. You can have actions that remain on screen permanently, or ones that appear when convenient, or ones that are always hidden inside that extra menu. And now that comes to the phone as well. But because we recognize that the screen on the phone is physically smaller, it's no longer a single unitary bar. You can now break it up in a couple of ways. You can stack your tabs vertically instead of having them in line. Or you can, again, as with the tablet, when you change your orientation, the amount of space that you have for your bar expands and contracts. So you can have different behaviors for different orientations. And then also, you can tell your actions to float to the bottom of the screen. So you don't have to have, you can stack your tabs, your navigation tabs. You can also stack your menu items. Different ways of accepting the reality of the fact that you use a telephone in a different way than you do a tablet, and the screen affordances on the phone are a bit different. I'm not going to say more about this because, again, we have an excellent talk lined up to give you lots of detail about these things after lunch, and you should look forward to seeing Nick's face up here on stage instead of mine. So, notifications are richer. You can now interact with notifications. You can dismiss them one at a time. It's more icons, generally a richer experience than you had with Gingerbread and earlier than on your strictly telephone-based systems. One of the nice things about Ice Cream Sandwich that you didn't have in Honeycomb is that you can dismiss them all at once with a single click. That's pretty nice, or a single tap on screen. So, just out of curiosity, how many of you have had a Honeycomb tablet and gone back to market after a few weeks of inactivity and had like 29 updates queued up, and you update them, and then you say, okay, you pull up your notifications, okay. You don't have to do that anymore. So, let's see. Yeah, launch home screen widgets. They are now richer. We have a few new types. You can interact with them. You can use them to page through your content, and then, so the user can select what they want to look at on the home screen by flipping through the stack, and then tap on it for more detail. Or we have scrolling ones so that you can show your calendar or your email list right there on the home screen, and then a simple tap will open the application and let the user interact with that item in detail. And then this is probably the #1 API that you should think about. We've completely, basically, it's a whole new concept in modularization or encapsulation for your activities. Back in the phone days, your whole application was oriented around an activity that filled the whole screen, and each activity had to be necessarily restricted to a well-focused task because there's just not that much space on the screen. You can scale the pixels on your device all you want, but your eyes don't scale. And your psychological ability to interact with information doesn't scale. So your activities have to be designed to human scale, and that means realistically on a phone, each screen has a fairly well-focused task. When you introduce a tablet, then all of a sudden you have a much bigger palette to work on, and you can realistically give your user more power, more information, more context all at the same time. And, but the Android API still deems that an activity fills the whole screen. But now you can decompose your activity into fragments, and on the phone you can have that fragment fill the whole activity, and on a tablet you can have your fragment fill part of the activity. So that's the essence of Fragments. Fragments also automate a few things that you had to do manually before, some of your context storing and restoration when you change activities out. Generally speaking, the Fragment API is a cleaner, better designed, more well thought out API for decomposing your program behaviors. And we really think this is the way forward. And as Nick likes to say, if you're not programming in Fragments, you're doing it wrong. And we like Fragments so much that we made them backwards compatible all the way to Donut, all the way to Android 1.6. So I can write one application on my Honeycomb or Ice Cream Sandwich device that uses Fragments for my encapsulation that works just about the same on my G1. And I have done this. Other stuff from Android 3.x, all of these things that we introduced for the first time in Honeycomb that you can now also do on the phone running Ice Cream Sandwich. Where do I go next? New stuff, new APIs. So everything I've talked about before is basically stuff you could do before. You saw the demo. So what did you think of that sharing demo that Richard did? Yeah? And third time's the charm, right? hopefully it won't take me 3 tries to get through this. So you can, you have an API for defining what happens when you bring 2 devices together. You can decide right up front in the on-create of your activity, or you can introduce, you can provide a callback function so that at the time that the sharing happens, you can look at your context and figure out what to do right then and there. You can customize the message that gets sent at the time that the sharing takes place. And then the receiving device broadcasts this action NDEF discovered event, and you can write an application that catches that notification, that intent, broadcast intent. And then if you don't do anything, if you just ignore it completely, then the default behavior is to share the application and mark it. Fancy animations. Another neat new thing is the action provider. This is a one-stop shop for putting items up in the action menu. So, if you want to, you say and the perfect example is the sharing action. This is sort of a nice wrapper around that whole that whole send intent that we used to have. The sharing intent is now collected together into something that includes a drop-down menu, and it's very simple to add to your application. So you can put this in your menu XML, and you can put this in your options menu handler, and basically you've got sharing, just like that, with a share action provider. So we have a framework for action providers, and then the share action provider is one instance of that. Right, just highlighting some different code. So, right, we have the new social API, so we have a better, richer, more integrated way of interacting with your contacts. So this is all part of our grand strategy to give you powerful ways to make your applications more social, to have your applications interact with people. This ties together some databases that you used to have to access separately. Let's see, what else have we got? Right, and the invite intent. So it's now, we provide a nice, easy, standard way for you to invite people to share with you on your social networks and social applications. Let's see, there's now a calendar API. So just out of curiosity, how many of you in the past have written an application that digs into the actual raw calendar data on the application or in the device? Well, I apologize for breaking your application, but we think this is a better way, a nice, standard, unified way, to an officially sanctioned way to interact with your calendar. Media, we have some better access to your media codecs. More codecs, we have some special effects, the media effects framework. Let's see, what have we got? Especially red eye, grayscale, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of information here about what these things do. OpenMaxAL. I'm not a multimedia programmer, so I hope this means more to you than it does to me. Wi-Fi Direct, you can now do local area networking over Wi-Fi. It's faster than Bluetooth, it's longer range, very simple to use. It's not quite the same as ad hoc Wi-Fi, but similar. Now, no more nasty surprises on your telephone bill. So, has anyone accidentally rung up surprisingly large charges for mobile data? Well, this is your friend. And you can provide application-specific ways of dealing with approaching your network quota. So, so the reason that we deprecated the old API and added the new one is because now the user can selectively throttle or disable your application's data usage. So there's a slightly richer and more complicated way of accessing what data you do or don't have in your application. We've improved accessibility. The accessibility story on Honeycomb was perhaps only half written. Some people argued, possibly with justification, that it was a step backwards from gingerbread, and we'd like to think that we've moved the ball forward again. So we have richer, more complete accessibility and some new accessibility affordances that we put into Ice Cream Sandwich. Let's see. So, okay, aha. We now have a, oh, goodness, I didn't expect that. Well, since we're there, let's go back to the phone. Should we play around a little bit? So I did not mean for the phone to come up right then, but since I did, you're such a wonderful group of people that I would love to take a picture of you, but no, not just a few of you. I want to take a picture of all of you, so I'm going to capture a panorama of the room. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Hello, Tel Aviv. Shalom, y'all. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really impressive being here. I have not seen so many yarmulkes in one place since I lived in Western New York. All right. So there we go. We're building a panorama of this room, and I will. So I will, shortly after my talk, I'm going to share this on Google+. You can look for me. There's two Sparky roads out there. You might as well just add them both. So one of them is my personal Google+ account that is really me, and the other one is just a test account that I use for stuff like this. And you're welcome to add it. You probably won't see a lot there, but I'll put this photo on that because that's what this phone is connected to. Let's see. What else should we? Yeah. Oh, I was going to tell you about some things. Oh, well. How am I doing for time? 11:42. Oh, I'm over time. Huh. Am I already done? No, I don't think I'm really done. But you don't want me to be done, do you? Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Yeah, I'll put that down. Let's go back to the slides. We can play around with this a little bit more later on. Properties, right? So in Honeycomb, we talked about property animation, and this is sort of the other shoe. Here's an easier way to get to your properties. So you can now just kind of add properties to your objects and access them using this fairly simple API. Let's see. Am I still turned on? Is my slide advancing? There we go. Yes. Oh, wait, that's backwards. Huh. Yeah, funny, English doesn't go right to left. We've improved our enterprise offering. Android has never been has not to date been really focused on the enterprise. We're really focused on interacting with real people and real users, people who use this intimately in their daily lives. But over time, our enterprise story gets better and better with each release. And these are our new offerings for enterprise and Ice Cream Sandwich. So some important certificate management to enable some, for example, VPNs. Generally speaking, give people more control over secure communications and authentication. We've beefed up the web browser a bit. We have a newer, more powerful version of WebKit that has some new affordances, better fonts. WebDriver is an engine for testing your web browser. It's basically a way of kind of remote control driving your web browser so that you can test your web layouts and your web views and things like that. Let's see, updated V8. So I have the privilege in Munich, Germany of sitting near the V8 team, so I get to hear people argue about what's going into V8, the JavaScript interpreter, which is common to both Android and to Chrome. Bunch of new enhancements that just come with the newer, more powerful, better version of WebKit. So more, better, more powerful HTML and web capabilities for your Android applications. got some new UI widgets to make your layouts more responsive, shallower, more efficient. The grid layout is a nice, it's a better replacement for the table layout, and certainly better than, how many of you ever did linear layout inside of linear layout? Yeah, you shouldn't have to do that anymore. Yeah, if it felt wrong, it probably was wrong, and the grid layout should be an improvement over that. Texture view, so the surface view gave you access to your GPU by basically like chopping a hole in the middle of your screen and rendering there. Texture view actually lets you render into something that's actually a real first-class view, and you can do like real view transforms using GPU-accelerated direct hardware stuff. And there's there's a blog article that has some sample code that shows doing a camera preview rotated 45 degrees just because you can. The switch control is a new thing. The pop-up menu is basically that share menu that I showed you is an instantiation of the pop-up menu. New cool stuff with the camera, the face detection API, better control over your camera, more advanced, more powerful functions. Some new system broadcast intents that you can catch and do things with camera activities. Here's some sample code for face detection. You can see it gives you, it's not just one face, it will give you an array of all the faces it detected, and then you can access the elements of the array to get the specific facial features that it picked up. So another new thing for Ice Cream Sandwich and API 14, hardware acceleration is now on by default. So if you build targeting API level 14, you automatically get a hardware boost on your application. So how's that? In the Honeycomb API, we provided hardware acceleration that was off by default. We're a little more comfortable with it now. You can still turn it off if you find that it doesn't speed up your activities or your views, but it's now on by default. So that's the new thing for Ice Cream Sandwich. Right, just some other new stuff we tossed in. More profiles for Bluetooth. You can interact with medical equipment and exercise machines. More sensors. And of course, because this is unified across the whole platform, this means that if you happen to have a telephone that, say, has a barometer in it, like we had with the Zoom tablet, that'll work too. There's now an API for visual voicemail, hooray. Something that I thought would be on my very first smartphone several years ago is now a reality on Android. So, do you know what I mean by visual voicemail? I mean, you can interact with your voicemail in an application rather than listening and listening. So, okay, so right, there's now a framework, a supported framework method for text-to-speech. You don't have to hack into the native layer anymore. You can now write spell checkers, just some throwaway things. Some things that you as developers will want to know for Ice Cream Sandwich. Try your app out on the holographic theme. The color palette is somewhat changed from what it was in Gingerbread and before, so you want to make sure that you don't have color clashes. You want to make sure that your text color doesn't vanish into the background or something. Do plan for the action bar. It's fully compatible with the old options menu. You just add a few extra XML tags into it. And so the idea is you use your menu, your options menu on Donut. It acts in the way it always did, but you put it onto a Honeycomb or Ice Cream Sandwich device, and it suddenly knows how to take advantage of the new, more powerful capabilities. Do test your application using high-resolution, high-density graphics. We all know that if you scale a bitmap up, it looks really blocky. If you scale a bitmap down, you lose lots of detail and you get funny artifacting. So do plan for the higher DPI screens that are now available to you, including extra high definition, or Yeah, extra high density, excuse me. Yeah, test your layouts. Do code using fragments. Now that we provide the compatibility, and do this. So this little snippet here, all by itself, tells the system it's okay to use things like to putting the menu in the action bar as opposed to using the traditional pop-up menu. If you don't specify a target SDK of higher than 11, then it's going to give you a compatibility menu that sits on the bottom, just like your options menu always did. So what was I saying about fragments? Right, well, let's go back. All right, I'll go forward. What I wanted to say about fragments is because we have this compatibility library that lets you add fragments to your applications today, supporting devices all the way back to Donut. This is something like 97.5% of all Android devices can now use fragments. You should use fragments. Okay, so what's new for the Galaxy Nexus? Big screen, big screen. This is this is the same physical screen resolution that I have on my 9-inch LG tablet. I say that because some of the other tablets, like the Galaxy Tab, actually are 1280 by 800. But anyway, very big screen, lots of pixels. So very, very high density, more than 300 dots per inch. Do provide those extra high density visual assets. Test your layouts, make sure they work on a very large screen. Test hardware acceleration. There's a lot of pixels to push around here. You want the GPU to help you. Let's see. Am I going forward? I'm going forward. And that is the end of my prepared content. So I guess until they kick us out, you can. Does anybody want to ask any questions now that will concern the whole room? If you don't have any questions that you want to ask right now, then you can always find me any other time during the day and mob me with questions and ask for autographs and things like that. And by all means, come and scan my badge so that you can add me on Google+, and I will scan yours. So, and I guess that's it for me. So, okay.